I was sitting in my car when the email came in. Not driving, not crying, just sitting there. The subject line said, "Notice of legal action." That's how I found out my own parents were suing me. At first, I didn't open it. I stared at the screen like it might change, like maybe it wasn't real. County court, official seal. It was real. Here's what messes with me the most. 2 weeks earlier, I just bought my first house. Not rented, not borrowed, mine. And instead of feeling proud, I remember thinking, this is going to cost me something. Growing up, my family looked normal. Good neighborhood, clean cars, smiling photos. But inside the house, there were rules. Don't need too much, don't ask too many questions, and definitely don't make things uncomfortable. I learned early that being easy made life easier. So I became easy. Pause. My younger sister didn't. She was sensitive, creative, always figuring things out. When she struggled, the family leaned in. When I struggled, I figured it out. By 16, I was working nights. By 18, I had 2 jobs. By my early 20s, I stopped expecting help. Not because I didn't want it, because every time I hinted, "You've got this." And yeah, I did. Every time. Buying the house wasn't sudden. It was years of saying no. No trips, no upgrades, no safety net. I tracked every dollar like it mattered, because it did. The realtor smiled when I signed. She said, "You must be excited." I nodded. Excited felt a lot like fear. That night, my mom called. No congratulations, just, "Why didn't you talk to us first?" I knew what she meant. Not talk, ask permission. I told her I'd been saving for years. Silence. Then the sigh. Then the line I've heard my whole life. "You know, your sister's having a hard time right now." That sentence has followed me forever. Different year, same excuse. Mia struggling meant everyone else paused, including me. I moved into the house alone. No family, no help. Just boxes and a mattress on the floor. That first night, it was quiet. No guilt, no favors, no expectations. It felt earned. 3 days later, my sister texted me. Reading, "Must be nice buying a house when some of us are barely holding it together." I laughed, out loud. Barely holding it together, with a paid-off car, covered rent, credit cards magically gone. I didn't reply. Beat. That was a mistake. The next morning, my dad called, not to congratulate me, to talk, which in my family means you're in trouble. When I walked in, my sister was already there, sitting comfortably, like this involved her. My chest tightened. My dad cleared his throat. "We've been thinking." My mom nodded. "We think the house should stay in the family." I laughed. I couldn't help it. I am the family. My mom frowned. "You don't need all that space." Then my sister leaned forward. Soft, rehearsed tone. "I could live there for a while, just until I get stable." Just until. Those 2 words, they've ruined more lives than people admit. They didn't ask, they assumed. They suggested rent so low it wouldn't cover utilities. I started explaining the numbers. Mortgage, insurance, taxes. My mom waved it off. Family helps family. Something snapped. Controlled anger. When did anyone help me? The room went silent. Not awkward silence, offended silence. My sister cried. My mom called me selfish. My dad said I was forgetting everything they'd done for me. I left. Pause. I really thought that was the end. 2 weeks later, that email arrived. They were suing me, claiming I owed them, that my success created obligation, and that the house should partly belong to them. I sat in my car afterward. Didn't cry, didn't scream. I just felt something go cold inside me. That night, I laid the lawsuit on my kitchen table, and I asked myself one question. Slow, heavy. How do you defend yourself when the people accusing you helped write your entire story? I read the lawsuit 3 times. Not because I didn't understand it, because I couldn't believe it. They were serious. This wasn't a threat. This wasn't guilt. This was paperwork, dates, claims. My own parents putting my name next to the word defendant. I sat at my kitchen table until the sun went down. Didn't eat, didn't move, just stared at the pages like they might explain themselves. They didn't. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I almost hung up before she answered because saying it out loud felt worse than reading it. My parents are suing me. There was a pause. Not shock, not confusion, just calm. Okay, she said. Tell me everything. I started from the beginning. Not the house, not the lawsuit. I started with childhood because somehow I knew that's where this actually started. I told her about being the easy one, about working early, about never asking, about how independence wasn't praised, it was expected. She listened, didn't interrupt, didn't nod dramatically, just wrote things down. Then I told her about Mia, the help, the money, the excuses, the pattern. When I finished, she leaned back and said something I wasn't ready for. This case is weak, she said. I exhaled. Then she added, but family cases don't always follow logic. That's when I felt the first real wave of fear. She explained it plainly. Judges are human. They react to emotion. They hear family and assume compromise. And your parents, she said, they are counting on that. I asked her the question I'd been avoiding. Can they actually win? She didn't sugarcoat it. They can make this painful, she said, and expensive. Then she looked at me. But pain goes both ways. That's when she said it. If we're doing this, we're doing it with facts, receipts. So I went home and opened my laptop, and I started digging. Every job I'd ever worked, every paycheck since I was 16, every tax return, every bank statement showing exactly where my money came from, and more importantly, where it didn't. No gifts, no transfers, no family help, just income, mine. Then came the hard part, Mia. I didn't want to do it. Digging through her history felt wrong, like betrayal. But the lawsuit already crossed that line, so I kept going. Car payments, paid by my parents. Rent, paid by my parents. Credit cards, paid off more than once. Tuition for a program she never finished, paid. I stacked the numbers side by side. Mine, hers. The difference wasn't subtle, it was brutal. I stared at the screen and felt something twist in my stomach. Not anger, not jealousy, grief. Because it finally hit me. This wasn't about the house. It never was. This was about balance, about fairness, about the moment my independence stopped being convenient. When I didn't need them anymore, they needed me. A few days later, my mom called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Her voice was tight, controlled, like she was holding something back. "You didn't have to take this so far," she said. I laughed. One sharp breath. "You sued me." She said they were just trying to be fair, that Mia was struggling, that families shouldn't fight like this. I asked her one question. "When did you ever worry about fairness?" Silence. Then she said something I'll never forget. "We just thought you'd understand." Understand? That word cut deeper than anything else. Because I did understand. I always had. That's why they expected me to give again. Court was scheduled for 6 weeks later. 6 weeks of waiting. 6 weeks of tension. 6 weeks of family group chats that suddenly went quiet. No one checked on me. No one asked how I was holding up. But Mia posted online. Quotes about healing, about boundaries, about being misunderstood. I stopped looking. I focused on the case, on facts, on staying calm. The night before court, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room surrounded by boxes I still hadn't unpacked. This house that started everything. And I realized something terrifying. Tomorrow, someone else would decide what it meant, whether it was mine or just another thing I was expected to give up. When I walked into the courthouse that next morning and saw my parents sitting together, I understood one thing with absolute clarity. They didn't come to settle. They came to win.
The courthouse smelled like old paper and disinfectant. Too quiet, too clean, like emotion wasn't allowed inside. My parents were already there when I walked in, sitting together, close. My mom had her hands folded. My dad stared straight ahead. They didn't look at me, not once. Mia sat a few seats away, scrolling on her phone, relaxed, like this was just another appointment she didn't really want to be at. That's when it hit me. They weren't nervous. They weren't scared. They were confident. I took a seat alone. No one came with me, no hand on my shoulder, no quiet encouragement, just me and the echo of my own breathing. The judge walked in. Everyone stood, and suddenly this wasn't a family issue anymore. It was a case. My lawyer leaned in and whispered, "Let them talk first." I nodded. I didn't trust my voice yet. My parents' attorney stood, confident, polished. He talked about sacrifice, about years of support, about family bonds. He said my parents had given everything, and now they were being abandoned. I watched the judge's face, neutral, listening. I could feel the room leaning, just slightly. Then Mia's name came up. "She's been struggling," the attorney said, "and my clients simply wanted fairness." Fairness. That word again. He made it sound reasonable, like I'd hoarded something, like I'd taken more than my share. My mom dabbed her eyes. Perfect timing. I didn't look at her. I was afraid if I did, I'd forget why I was there. Then it was my lawyer's turn. She stood slowly, didn't rush, didn't match his energy. She just said, "Let's talk about facts." She started with me, my age, my work history, every job since 16. She laid it out clean, no emotion, just numbers, income, savings, mortgage approval, all me. No assistance, no gifts, no transfers. The judge leaned forward, just a little. Then my lawyer pivoted. "To understand fairness," she said, "we need to look at the full picture." She turned toward Mia, and the room shifted. She asked simple questions. "When did you last pay your own rent?" Mia hesitated. My parents' attorney objected. The judge allowed it. Mia answered, sort of. She talked around it, used words like transition and temporary. My lawyer asked again, "When was the last time you supported yourself without assistance?" Silence. Mia looked at my parents, then back at the judge. "I don't remember exactly." The judge wrote something down, slowly, deliberately. Next came the numbers: car payments, rent, credit cards, tuition, all documented, all paid by my parents. Side by side, my finances, hers. The contrast was impossible to ignore. My dad shifted in his seat. My mom's hands tightened. Mia stopped looking relaxed. Then my parents' attorney tried to recover. He said I didn't need help, that I was strong, independent, responsible. My lawyer didn't miss a beat. "She didn't need help," she repeated. Then she turned to the judge. "So she didn't receive any." That landed, harder than anything else so far. The judge looked at my parents and asked the question that changed everything. "Why," she said, "was support given to one child repeatedly and not once to the other?" My dad answered, without hesitation, "She didn't ask." The room went still. The judge looked up, really looked at him. Then she said, "Children shouldn't have to ask to be treated equally." My chest tightened. Not relief, not yet, just pressure. The judge called a brief recess. People stood, chairs scraped, conversations started. My parents leaned toward each other, whispering, urgent. Mia stared at the floor. My lawyer turned to me, and for the first time, she smiled, just a little. But before I could say anything, the judge called us back. As I stood and faced the bench again, I realized something terrifying. They still hadn't heard my voice, and when they did, everything was going to change.
I stood up when they called my name. My legs didn't shake. My hands didn't either. That surprised me. I walked to the stand and swore to tell the truth. And suddenly, this wasn't about money. It was about memory. The judge looked at me, not cold, not warm, just attentive. That was worse. My lawyer asked the first question. "Can you tell the court how you purchased the house?" Simple. Safe. I explained the savings, the years, the work. My voice was steady, too steady. Then she asked, "Did you receive any financial assistance from your parents?" No. One word. Clear. She nodded, then paused, then asked the question I wasn't prepared for. "How did that make you feel?" I hesitated. That wasn't in my notes. I swallowed. "I didn't really think about how it felt," I said. "That was normal." The judge looked up again. I explained what normal meant: working young, covering my own expenses, not expecting help. Because expecting help just led to disappointment. I wasn't accusing, I wasn't angry. I was explaining, and that somehow felt more dangerous. Then my lawyer leaned in. "Did you ever ask for help?" I thought about it, really thought. About the times I hinted, about the moments I stayed quiet. "No," I said. "I learned not to." Why? I took a breath. Because this was the truth. Because every time my sister needed something, I said, the answer was already yes. And every time I didn't need anything, I wasn't part of the conversation. The courtroom felt smaller. My lawyer asked about holidays, birthdays, big moments. Who got attention? Who got patience? I didn't list grievances. I listed patterns, and patterns are harder to argue with. Then the other attorney stood. Cross-examination. He smiled, friendly, disarming. "You're clearly capable," he said. "Strong, independent." I nodded. "That's true." "And you never ask for help." "No." "So isn't it possible," he said, "that your parents assumed you didn't want or need support?" That was the trap. I answered carefully. "They assumed," I said, "because it was easier than asking." He pressed. "You don't deny they helped your sister?" "No." And you don't deny they raised you? No. So what's the issue here? I looked at the judge, then back at him. The issue, I said, is that support was given based on need, and need was defined as struggling. I paused, let that sit. Then I continued. I didn't struggle, I adapted. And now I'm being told that adapting created an obligation. The attorney frowned. He tried again. Isn't this really about resentment? That word hit hard. I shook my head. No, it's about ownership. That got attention. I own my choices, I said. I own my work. And now I own my home. My voice cracked, just once. And being related to me doesn't give anyone the right to claim those things. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. The judge wrote something down. Slow. Intentional. The attorney sat. He didn't smile anymore. I stepped down from the stand. My legs felt weak now, the delayed reaction. As I walked back to my seats, I didn't look at my parents. I didn't need to. I could feel it. Something had shifted. But then the judge spoke, and my stomach dropped. We'll take a brief recess, she said, and reconvene for final statements. As everyone stood, my mom finally looked at me. And for the first time, she didn't look angry. She looked scared. When we came back from recess, the room felt different, tighter, heavier, like everyone knew something was about to break. My parents sat closer together now. My mom kept rubbing her hands. My dad leaned back, jaw clenched. Mia stared straight ahead, like eye contact might cost her something. The judge nodded to my parents' attorney. Final statements. He stood slowly, took his time. This wasn't about facts anymore. This was about feeling. He talked about family, about sacrifice, about long nights and hard choices. He painted my parents as tired, worn down, people who gave everything and were now being pushed aside. He said the word ungrateful without saying it, said owed without using the word. Then he gestured toward me. She didn't need help, he said, but surely she understands what it means to support family. I felt my chest tighten. This was the move. Not legal, emotional. My mom wiped her eyes again. Not messy crying, controlled, practiced. She's always been strong, the attorney continued, and strength comes with responsibility. That sentence hit harder than anything else because I'd heard it my whole life. Then my lawyer stood. No rush, no dramatics. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. This case isn't about strength, she said. It's about boundaries. She talked about independence, about adulthood, about how support freely given doesn't become a debt. Then she looked at the judge and said something that shifted the room again. If success creates obligation, she said, then failure becomes currency. I felt that land. Even Mia flinched. My lawyer continued. My client didn't withdraw from her family. She simply stopped being available for extraction. The word hung there, extraction. She finished calmly. This court cannot punish self-sufficiency. The judge nodded, once. Then she leaned forward and asked my parents a question directly. If this house had failed, she said, if she had lost money, would you be asking for a share of that loss? Silence. My dad opened his mouth, closed it. The judge didn't wait. That tells me everything I need to know. My stomach flipped. Not relief, not yet. Something sharper. The judge said she'd issue a ruling shortly. Everyone stood. Again. As people gathered their things, my mom turned to me. Her voice was low, urgent. We never wanted it to go this far, she said. You could still fix this. fix, that word again. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. "This is me fixing it," I said. Her face tightened. She looked away. We left the courtroom. I sat on a hard bench in the hallway, my lawyer beside me, quiet. Minutes passed, maybe 10, maybe 20. Time didn't make sense. Then the courtroom doors opened. The clerk called our case. As we stood to go back in, I realized something terrifying. No matter what the judge decided next, my family would never be the same again. We stood when the judge walked back in. No one spoke. No one moved. The room felt smaller than before. The judge sat, adjusted her glasses, looked down at her notes. Then she looked up. "I've reviewed the filings," she said. "I've listened carefully to testimony." Her voice was calm, almost gentle. That made it worse. "This case," she continued, "is not complicated." My heart slammed once, hard. She didn't look at my parents. She didn't look at me. She spoke to the room. Parents are not entitled to the future earnings or property of their adult children. Pause. That was the first crack. My mom's breath caught. I heard it. The judge went on. "Providing food, shelter, and support to a child is not a loan. It does not create a debt. It does not create ownership." My dad shifted in his seat, just slightly, but I saw it. She turned a page. Slow, purposeful. "This court finds no legal basis," she said, "for the claim that the defendant owes compensation for being raised." My stomach flipped. Not relief, not yet. She continued, "Nor does this court find any justification for transferring ownership, partial or otherwise, of property purchased solely by the defendant." My mom shook her head. Once. Barely. The judge didn't stop. "Support given to one child does not entitle parents to redistribute another child's success." That line hit like a hammer. The judge finally looked directly at my parents, and her tone changed. "Raising children is a responsibility, not an investment strategy." Silence. Absolute. "I am dismissing this case," she said, "in its entirety." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the clerk spoke. "Case dismissed." Just like that. Years of pressure, weeks of fear, gone. My legs went weak. I had to sit. My lawyer leaned in, quiet. "It's over." I didn't look at my parents. I couldn't. I didn't want that moment ruined by their reactions, but I felt them. I felt the shift, the loss of control. Mia stood slowly, didn't look at anyone. Not me, not them. My mom stayed seated, hands clenched, staring forward like she might argue with the air. My dad stood last, his face unreadable. As people began to leave, the judge added one final sentence. Not required, not procedural, personal. "This court strongly encourages all parties," she said, "to reflect on the difference between support and entitlement." Then she stood and walked out. I stayed seated, breathing, trying to process the fact that the fight was legally over, but emotionally, nothing was resolved. As we walked into the hallway, my lawyer squeezed my shoulder. "You did everything right," she said. I nodded, but it didn't feel like winning. Because winning doesn't usually cost you this much. I stood outside the courthouse for a long time. Didn't move. Didn't check my phone again. Just let the noise of the street pass through me. Cars, footsteps, people who had no idea what just ended. My phone buzzed again. Same message. We need to talk. No apology. No explanation. Just expectation. I knew what she meant. Come back. Sit down. Smooth it over. Pretend none of this happened. I didn't answer. Not right away. I drove home instead. The house felt different when I walked in. Quieter than usual. Like it knew something had shifted. I dropped my keys on the counter and leaned back against the door. That's when my hands started shaking. Delayed reaction. I sat on the floor again. Same spot as before. Funny how that kept happening. An hour later, my mom called. I let it ring. Then voicemail. Then ring again. I answered on the third try. We didn't mean for it to turn into all that, she said. No greeting. Straight into damage control. You sued me, I said. Simple. Flat. She sighed. Long. Dramatic. We were just trying to protect the family. Protect. That word again. From what? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Mia's not like you, she said finally. She needs support. There it was. Still, after court, after everything. I'm not cutting her off, I said. I'm just not giving up my house. That's not what this is about, she snapped. And for a second, there it was. The anger. Then what is it about? I asked. Silence. I don't understand why you're being like this, she said. That sentence broke something in me. Being like what? I asked quietly. Independent? She didn't respond. You taught me to stand on my own, I said. And now you're mad that I did? Her voice changed then. Softer. Careful. We just thought you'd come around, she said. There's still time. Time. To undo myself. I'm not coming back to the version of me that made everyone comfortable, I said. She inhaled sharply. You're choosing a house over your family? No, I said. I'm choosing myself. That ended the call. Not with shouting, not with closure. Just distance. Later that night, my dad texted. Short. Proud of you for standing your ground. Didn't expect it. That one hurt more than the yelling ever could, because it admitted everything. Mia never reached out. Not that day. Not the next. She posted instead. Quotes about betrayal, about growth, about letting go of people who don't support you. I muted her. Not out of anger, out of exhaustion. Days passed, then weeks. No invitations, no updates, just silence. And in that silence, something strange happened. I felt lighter, not happy, not healed, but free from the constant pressure of managing everyone else's feelings. One night, I was unpacking a box labeled MISC. Inside was an old photo, me and Mia as kids, both smiling, both unaware. I sat on the floor again, held the photo, and felt grief. Not for what I lost, but for what I never had. As I put the photo away, I realized something that scared me more than the lawsuit ever did. I didn't miss them, and I didn't know what that meant yet.
The house stayed quiet. Not the uncomfortable quiet from before.
Not the kind filled with tension, just quiet. No unexpected calls, no guilt-filled messages, no reminders of what I should be doing. And somehow, that made me uneasy. I started noticing things. How I slept through the night, how my shoulders weren't constantly tight, how I wasn't bracing myself every time my phone buzzed. That should have felt good. It didn't. It felt unfamiliar, like wearing clothes that fit after years of squeezing into something smaller. I unpacked slowly, one box a night. Not because I was busy, because I was stalling. Each box felt like a decision. This stays, this goes. This belongs to me now. I found old notebooks from college, budgets, schedules, lists titled, "What I'll Do When Things Calm Down." They never did. I realized something standing there on my living room floor. I'd built my entire life around readiness. Ready to help, ready to fix, ready to adjust, but not ready to rest. A week after court, I ran into a neighbor. She smiled, asked how I was settling in. Normal question, simple. I opened my mouth to say, "Good," and almost followed it with an explanation. I stopped myself, just said, "Good." She nodded. That was it. No expectations, no backstory. That moment stayed with me longer than it should have. I went for walks in the evening. Same route, same time. No phone, just movement. I started thinking about things I wanted. Not needed, wanted. Paint on the walls, plants, a couch that wasn't temporary. That thought hit me hard. Temporary. That's how I'd lived everything. One night, guilt showed up out of nowhere. Sharp, uninvited. What if I'd gone too far? What if I was wrong? What if I'd misunderstood everything? I almost called my mom. The phone was in my hand, unlocked. I stared at the screen and asked myself one question. Do I miss them, or do I miss who I was when I was trying to earn peace? I put the phone down. A few days later, my dad emailed. Not a text, an email. Careful. He said he hoped I was well, that things got out of hand, that families make mistakes. He didn't say sorry, not directly, but he said one thing that stuck. I didn't realize how much pressure you carried. I read that line over and over. Not relief, not closure, just recognition. Late, but real. I didn't respond right away, not because I was angry, because I didn't know what responding meant. That night, I cooked dinner. Actually cooked. Music on, windows open. I caught myself humming. Stopped, not because it was wrong, because it felt strange. I realized something sitting there with a plate in front of me. For the first time, no one was watching. No one was waiting to see what I'd give up next. That freedom was quiet, but heavy. As I turned off the lights and walked down the hallway, I thought I heard my phone vibrate. A message from Mia, and suddenly the quiet felt fragile again. The phone hadn't actually vibrated. I checked anyway. Nothing. I stood there in the hallway, lights off, staring at the screen like it might confess something. Then it buzzed. For real this time. Mia. Just her name, no preview. I sat down on the edge of the bed before opening it. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Like my body remembered what these conversations usually cost me. The message was shorter than I expected. I didn't want it to go like that. That was it. No apology, no accusation, just distance. I stared at it for a long time, long enough to feel the old pull, the urge to explain, to soften things, to make it okay for everyone. I typed 3 different replies, deleted all of them. What I wanted to say wasn't clean, it wasn't polite, and it definitely wasn't what she expected. So I waited, let the silence stretch. Another message came through. They're really upset. There it was, the weight being passed back to me. I took a breath, slow. Then I typed, I know. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. They feel like you abandoned them. I closed my eyes. That sentence felt familiar, like a coat I'd been handed my whole life. I replied, standing still isn't abandoning anyone. No typing bubble this time, just quiet. Minutes passed. Then, you've always been strong. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was revealing. I typed back, I didn't choose to be. That one took longer. I guess I never thought about it like that. That was new. Small, but new. I set the phone down, didn't rush to fill the space, let it breathe. When I picked it up again, there was one more message. So, what happens now? That question hit harder than anything she'd said before, because for once, she wasn't asking for something. She was asking where the line was. I thought about everything: the house, the court, the silence, the guilt. And then I answered. What happens now, I typed, is that I don't give things away to keep the peace. I waited, heart steady, no panic. Does that mean you're done with us? I didn't rush. This mattered. No, I typed. It means I'm done disappearing. The dots appeared, stayed longer this time, then stopped. No reply. I set the phone down for good, not in anger, not in fear, just finished. That night, I slept deeply. No dreams, no rehearsed conversations, just rest. In the morning, sunlight filled the room. The house felt solid, grounded. I realized something making coffee. This was the first decision I'd made that wasn't about reaction. It was about direction. Cliffhanger ending. As I stood there, mug in hand, my phone lit up again. A new message from my dad. This one said, "Can we start over?" The message stayed on my screen longer than it needed to. Can we start over? I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't care, because I finally understood what that question really meant. It didn't mean start over. It meant, can you go back to being the version of you we understood? I took my coffee to the window. Morning light filled the room. The house felt awake, like it was watching me decide. I thought about everything that had happened: the lawsuit, the courtroom, the silence afterward. And I realized something important. Starting over doesn't erase patterns. It only resets expectations. I typed slowly, not carefully, honestly. We can move forward, I wrote, but not back. 3 dots appeared, stopped, appeared again. I don't want to lose you. That one landed, not as guilt, as truth. I'm not going anywhere, I typed. I'm just not giving myself away anymore. That was the line, the boundary. No immediate reply. And for the first time, that didn't scare me. A few days later, my dad asked to meet. Neutral place, coffee shop. No family home, no old roles. He arrived early, stood when he saw me, didn't hug, didn't reach, just nodded. We sat, ordered, waited. He didn't realize, he said finally, how much we leaned on you. I didn't correct him, didn't soften it. I let the sentence stand on its own. I thought being proud meant letting you handle things, he said. I nodded. That's what I learned. He looked down at his hands, then back up. I don't want to lose you, he said again. I don't want to lose myself, I replied. He nodded. Slow. Acceptance doesn't arrive loud. It settles. Mia didn't come. Not that day, not that week. But months later, she sent a message. Short, different. I'm trying to figure things out on my own. I read it twice. Not suspicious, just cautious. I replied, "I hope you do." No advice, no fixing, no rescue. And something surprising happened. She didn't ask for more. Time passed. Holidays came. Some were quiet, some were awkward. None were explosive. And my house, it finally became a home. Paint on the walls, plants by the window, a couch I didn't plan to replace. One night, I sat on the floor again. Same spot, different feeling. I realized something I wish I'd known sooner. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like not bracing for impact. It feels like making choices without rehearsing explanations. It feels like knowing you can walk away and choosing to stay only when it's safe. I didn't lose my family. I just stopped letting them decide who I had to be to belong. And that changed everything.